Hi, and welcome to the Leader's Edge. This is how to sharpen your competitive advantage and make a positive impact as a leader in your organization and community. I'm Emily Chiwa, and this is Georgia Donaldson. We are the
Hey.
co hosts. Hi, Georgia. And we're the co hosts of this show. And today we are talking about creating trust, the foundation of successful teams. Teams. And to share with us on that topic, we have Jane Wight. So,
Hi.
Hi, Jane. Jane is the group, if you don't know Jane, she is the group chief CEO at the Business Supply Group and a guest lecturer at the Arthur Lockjack School of Business. So Jane has been, I don't know Jane, well, I guess you'll tell us a little bit when you jump in, like, how long you've been the CEO there and and she's gonna share with us some of her experiences around this very important topic of trust. And Georgia, you know that
Mhm.
having high trust relationships in teams is like a prerequisite, right? If
Yes.
you have high trust relationships, you cannot have good relationships. You cannot have a successful team. As a result,
Hmm.
we'd have the undermining, the undercutting, the passive aggression. Those
Hmm.
kinds of things when people don't feel like they are comfortable. Um,
Yes.
they won't open up. They won't be creative and share their ideas freely and so on and it's just not a great place to work. I mean, that's for me, right? I like harmony and I like to be doing things together and feeling like we're moving in the same direction. So I find like when you're in a team that does not have a good trust relationships, you feel like everybody's for themselves, moving
Different
in their own
directions.
directions, and
Hmm.
we're not getting enough done or we're not getting the right things done together. Yeah,
Mhm.
Joanna? So I know
Yes.
you wanted to jump in before we had Jane on, so go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. Emily, Jane, it's so nice to have you on. And you're going to be talking about trust. This is like the super glue to any relationship. And even before we get to relationships at work, when you're talking about your relationships in your family, your spouse, your parents, your children, that's the super glue. And when we talk about high functioning now and high performing teams, trust is at the foundation. Jane, you've been at the CEO business for quite a while. So you're going to share with us now how you have been able to create and have trust in your relationships. So we're going to give you the floor now, Jane. Tell us your story.
Hello and morning. Thank you so much, Georgia. Thank you so much, Emily. So, I was promoted to the CEO role in 2017 of the boss. And then in 2020, just around time in COVID, I was promoted to the group CEO role. So, I had boss and script J division that I worked for. And that was a difficult time. And we speak about trust, which is, as you said, Georgia, the super glue of any organization. And without trust, there are people feeling uncomfortable. And when you're trying to navigate a difficult situation, you won't look around and feel comforted. You will feel like people are maybe second guessing you, and you may not be as brave as you could be. And one of the things about trust, and this was highlighted a lot during COVID, Harvard Business Review and many LinkedIn articles would have spoken about leaders, the importance of vulnerability and being honest. And, I mean, for me, it spoke almost like if it was a revolutionary idea, creating trust and building teams by, sharing vulnerability and asking for feedback and solutions because, the leader isn't the only one. And I thought, coming from a background of HR, just like, are y'all finally getting it? Is this what I'm seeing here? You know, because I mean, in the HR spaces, we know this a long time. So a lot of leaders struggled during COVID. And I saw some of my leaders try to do certain things in the way that they were doing it before, and you had to navigate differently, and that is something that I think I try to do often. I'm not afraid to say, hold on, I think I made a mistake here. Let's step back. What are you all thinking about this decision? And
Mhm.
for me, I am a confident person. So how I speak sometimes, some of the leaders that work with me do feel, I think at times, hesitant to speak a difference of opinion. So I have to constantly reassure them. And I think as leaders, just because you created trust in the beginning or in some difficult times doesn't mean the trust is kept for life. And so
Yes.
as leaders, we need to continuously work on that trust and check in, and then notice if your team has changed. I noticed, and one of the things that I would say is, I noticed you're a little bit quiet. What's up with your facial expression? And I'm very direct. And
Mhm.
if you pick up on people's facial expressions as well, you can tell when somebody, if you know them well, are not feeling it. So it really is about bringing it out, bringing the thoughts out from different perspectives, even when you've created that trust. And so for me, even after COVID, which was, done and gone in my opinion, but you come out of feeling like you've done so much to create trust and the vulnerability setting and the being honest. And then you get back to like day-to-day life.
Yes.
And you may lose some in some of the conversations and some of the things that you do along the way. And so for me, it's just trying to remember that you're creating a inclusive environment all the
Yes.
time. And as a
Yes.
leader, you earn the right along the way to have that trust. But sometimes along the way, people perceive things that you do inwardly. What Jane
Mhm.
did, that's probably because to me, and their own insecurities might show up. So
Right.
it's continuously bringing your team back in.
Right.
Yeah.
Jane, you mentioned the word inclusivity. Yes, that is one of the things that's so key for trust. And something just struck me that trust is not a destination, it's a journey. And
Yes.
some of what you just said talks about that journey. So, talk about your journey, Jane, and any tip that you'd want to give any leader in building trust.
I think that there needs to be an honesty, and I touched on it a little bit. If it is
Mm-hmm.
that you as a leader is struggling because you don't see the day to day, you don't know everything, you couldn't possibly know everything. So it's to open the floor to other team members to give feedback. And even if you have, 15 years experience, 35 years experience, 20, there may be somebody who just started that is so
Mm-hmm.
close to the activity, they might see it differently and have some good solutions. So for me, it is a continuous call to your team to say, hey, guys, what do you think about this? Has this been working? Because if as a leader you pretend to know everything or pretend that, this is the way that it should be, or you genuinely have a high ego and you're like, I must be right all the time, your team is going to
Mm-hmm.
know. Your team,
Yes.
I mean, you don't have people in the positions because they don't know everything. Um,
Yes.
and yes, nobody knows everything, but if something is going wrong in a team, they will sense it. And if there's not a culture of trust, your team, when you ask very quickly and move on, is everything okay? You'll have any recommendations? Some leaders don't even wait for a pause because you feel uncomfortable and then you're just on to the next thing. So even
Yes.
somebody who has a thought or idea, they're like, well, they're not really serious about taking on feedback. So you have to continuously, in my opinion, have that call to action from the people who you work with to give feedback upwards.
So
Mm-hmm.
Jane,
Yeah.
yeah, I love what you said, and I'm hearing so many things. So I'm hearing listening, I'm hearing
Mm-hmm.
asking, like continually asking and being open to hearing. I'm hearing pausing to allow people the time to
Yeah.
gather their thoughts, and because sometimes if you don't leave the pause, as you said, long enough, people may just be like, it's not such a great idea. But if you leave it long enough, they will be like, okay, let me say something, because
Mm-hmm.
they now feel like they have to fill the void, right?
This,
That's
yes.
created. And then I'm curious about safety, because trust and safety is another. It's kind of works hand in hand. Like
Yes.
any tips around how you would have created or continuously create safety in your team where they feel they can in fact bring something, and even if it mightn't be the best idea, quote unquote, because no, I mean, some ideas are not always something that we can uh, execute on. However, it can lead to other ideas that with ones that we can. So how do you allow um, persons in your team to feel safe that they can in fact be open and share, and as part of that trust relationship? Curious about that.
So first of all, I would say I am not perfect, you know, and I know that there have been times where I haven't created a safe space and been told afterwards because I'm usually that kind of brave go-getter. So as I mentioned, like I don't sometimes I don't leave space for people to have another opinion just because I say it so passionately, and I am passionate, you know. But sometimes I have to have people strong enough to like pull me and be like, what's happening? And then I also have to realize it's my role to be emotionally aware and in tune with their thoughts and feelings and pull my own self back, because there have been times when I've said, why didn't you all tell me? And then they're like, I don't think we could have. At that point, I felt like there was no opportunity to stop you, you know, or say, hey, I think there could have been a different way. So I think, you know, when those things happen, I have to pull myself back. I have to do the introspection.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's hard because, you know, when you introspect, sometimes you don't like what is brought to you from your own self. And you're like, oh, and I do this, like you're cringing because you're like, I can't believe I did that when I think so strongly about creating, you know,
Mm.
safety and inclusivity and trust. So it's you know, being more emotionally aware and then giving yourself grace in the process, because as a leader it's not easy and you won't always have that perfect or near perfect or the best leadership style at all times, because also you are not your best. You know, some days your 60% is your 100%, if you all know what I'm talking about. And leaders
Yeah.
have that, CEOs have that, you know, leaders of large teams and small teams, you know, at the end of the day, we're all human, and humans are dynamic and do get affected by what's going on around us. So emotionally aware is definitely, you know, having that emotional intelligence overall of self and others is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emily, what number episode is this? This is what, about our seventh?
10.
Or what? 10th?
Okay.
We should be having a party.
We should have been
But
having.
but I mentioned that point, Emily, because almost every episode we've had, emotional awareness has come up for the leader. And that
Mm.
is such a strong theme that has run right across every conversation we've had. And Jane, I congratulate and celebrate you, because so many leaders do not want to make that point that you have to be emotionally aware. And
Mhm.
some leaders shy away from saying that they are not perfect. So I really celebrate that. And that's one good thing for trust. When your team members recognize that, yes, you can be vulnerable, and yes, you can say, today is not a good day for me, and give them that room to move away, to come to you, whatever it is, but just
Yeah.
creating that space where it says we're all people here.
Yes.
Good. So when we talk about high functioning teams, what are some of the things? Give us a picture of when you see a high functioning team. What are some of the things that happen? Let's use mistakes, for example. When you have a high functioning team and someone makes a mistake, what happens?
So, in a high functioning team, in my opinion, you have that all hands on deck. It's all of our responsibility. And when somebody slips or is having a bad day or genuinely just forgets to do a process or something, you know, we're looking out for each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, what it sounds like is, hey, Jane, I know that you mentioned you were going to call that customer, but I noticed that it didn't happen and we were running out of time. So I called them for you. And next week is when we're meeting. And then you have that sigh of relief, like, huh, I'm not alone, you know,
Right.
and you do little things for each other to move the common goal forward. And there isn't a, how many times did you know that you were supposed to call our customer? I mean, where, you know, that kind of more
Mhm.
pointing blame,
Right.
and you have that more of a support system
Mhm.
where people feel like, not that you're trying to slip all the time, but if something doesn't go well, you have a team member, even if it also is to say, hey, don't forget you have to call the customer,
Mhm.
you're supposed to do that.
Right.
So it's not necessarily them taking over your role, but sometimes highlighting things. And what I
Yes.
see from teams that not always high functioning, some people kind of go, I
Mhm.
think she's going to forget that customer call, you know, but anyway. So in the reverse, I think it looks like that.
Mhm. Okay.
Right. So an unwillingness to call out things or to bring stuff to people's attention. And
Yes.
I think yeah, so it's looking out for one another in a genuine way.
Mm-hmm.
And also, as you were saying to Jane, I mean, there might be times when you do have to have the cleanup conversations, you know, when
Oh, for
things
sure,
aren't going well and that kind of thing, and also
for sure.
being willing to engage in that as
Right.
well,
Yeah.
timely, right? Because that could also bring the team down if we're always having to look out for a
Mm-hmm.
person who doesn't feel, you know, something is up and they're not sharing what's going on.
Right.
Yes,
We can't
Right.
we can't be
Definitely.
supportive. We can't be
Yes.
supportive if we don't know what we're dealing with, you know, what's going on. It could be something very, I know something is affecting them at home and whatnot. They're not willing to share. But once we all know, then we can provide that additional support if it's time they need or whatever might be
Yes.
needed to
Mm-hmm.
allow for, you know, because
Yes.
we were talking about ill parents just now. And that's the thing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes we have to deal with. So, you know,
Yes. Yes.
life
Yes.
happens.
Yeah,
So
because we have our team members who have
Yeah.
children, then we have our team members who have elder parents who they're caring for. So they have
yeah,
so many issues outside of work. And I see trust as a foundation. Once we've built that foundation, then it's so much easier to collaborate. It's so much easier to communicate, and it's so much easier to have each other's back. So let's
Yes.
make sure that trust is at the foundation of that relationship.
yeah,
Wow, this has been lovely. So,
yeah,
Jane, what are your last words to
yes.
anyone who's listening? And we're saying good morning to all of you who may be driving, those who are already in the office, and of course, those of you who are going to catch this on replay. What's your
Yes.
word for them, Jane?
Servant leadership.
Mm-hmm.
As a leader, we are here to serve others and those that we work with. So it's important that we are doing the things to support them, to create trust, and to get that high functioning team. So never forget that one of the reasons that you're a leader is because you have people to lead.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yes. When the
Wonderful.
leader looks behind him or her, is there anyone following? Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Always remember. So,
And
Emily, let's
following.
bring this to a close.
Yes, yes. And I was going to say, and following by choice,
And
not because
Yeah,
following
they
by
have
choice.
to.
Yes.
that's the idea. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. So thank you, Jane, and thank you for waking up earlier than you usually for us. We appreciate it so much that you came to share your wisdom and your experience with us today and the audience I would listen to this in terms of building trust in relation in teams especially. I feel like this is something that if more of us as leaders and people in the teams, you know, participate in, because trust is a two-way street. Yes, the
Yes.
leader can extend and whatnot, but the team members do have to put themselves out as well, right? So that the
Yeah.
honesty is shared, right? So we start in one place, but we allow, you know, we create it by inviting, and persons have to take up the invitation. So I
Right.
hope that people are encouraged, whether you're leading a team, whether you're part of a team at yourself, whether you're just collaborating and not necessarily leading, but as a participatory team, that you think about trust and you think about your team and how it is right now. And is it working the best way that you want it to? Are there places or spaces for improvement? And can you look at some of what we talked about today and see if there's something that you can implement to improve that trust dynamic? You know, whether it is just having some open conversations, you know, allowing for us to talk about this idea. Do we feel like we have trust in this team? You
Right.
know, is there something that we could improve here? How can we work better together? How can we be more supportive? So
Right.
ask the questions so that you get the answers, right?
Yeah.
So, there you
And
Instead
go.
of
wait
complaining
for the response.
and
Wait
Wait
for
wait
the
for
for it.
response.
responses. And
Yes.
especially instead of complaining and blaming after the meeting, you know, try to do it in the meeting,
Yes.
not the second meeting afterwards.
Second meeting. Yes. And always remember that trust is a journey, not the destination.
Correct.
Absolutely. Yes, love
Yes.
it. Love it. Thank you
Good.
all for this today and have a wonderful week, everyone.
Yes. And
Bye.
Bye.
when it comes, take care, everybody.
Bye.